There comes a time in your life when you realize all of your goals, dreams, and aspirations go absolutely nowhere because you do not love yourself enough. If you were to have a friend and her birthday party was in the evening, but you had to do all these things, you would probably push all of those things aside to be there for your friend. But when it comes to you, you find so many excuses, so many reasons to not push things aside and be there for yourself. Is it because you think you find more purpose when you do for others? What if I told you in order to do more for others, you also need to consider yourself? It's simple. Anything you love, you fight for, yourself included. The kind of madly in love I'm talking about is the love that might launch 1,000 ships. I'm talking about the love that writes poems and stands outside of your house with a boombox. I'm talking about the romantic, the friendship, the every sense of love that you can give on to others. I need you to be able to give it to yourself, if not more than you do for others. Now, there's a lot of people that will say, of course, Tanisha, I love myself. I know I love myself because I do not hate myself. But what if I told you that there is something in between self-love and self-hate, and unfortunately, it's much worse. Between self-love and self-hate is self-toleration. It's quiet, it's sneaky, and the only time you seem to realize when you're not in love with yourself and not in hate with yourself is when you are going nowhere when it comes to your dreams, your goals, and your aspirations, and especially when it comes to your interpersonal, specifically romantic relationships. Self-toleration, unfortunately, is a lot harder to detect. With self-hate, at least, you have passion, and I love passion. I think life should be full of passion, and I feel like everybody should be passionate about life, and I think passion is what makes the world go round. So I would say personally that self-hate is a whole lot better than self-toleration, because at least when it comes to self-hate, that meant you disappointed yourself, and if you disappointed yourself, that meant you had standards, and if you had standards, there was something there that you once held dear. But with self-toleration, anything goes. The answer to all of your dreams, goals, and finding the discipline to execute them is going to be self-love. You do not give up on things you love. You do not let go of things you love. You do not fall short for things you love. You show up, you show out because it gives you validation. And unfortunately, we have been finding validation too long and too much of it in other people. It's time for you to center yourself. And yes, I do mean self-center yourself so that you can find that validation within. Self-love is a really complicated thing, right? When it comes to relationship with other people, when it comes to romantic relationships, I think that's when lack thereof is very evident. When you do not know yourself, you can be incredibly avoidant. When you have not fully met yourself to the depths, you can be a very avoidant person. When you rely on other people for validation, especially in romantic relationships, it can create an incredibly anxious attachment style. And the reason why romantic relationships are a lot louder when it comes to showing whether or not you have self-love is because romantic relationships are intimate in a way that friendships and familyships are not. So I think the best way to love yourself is both in a relationship and out of a relationship. And that is the perfect way to find out where you land on that scale. So take a look at your last few relationships. When you left them, how did you feel about yourself? Did you feel disappointed? Did you feel like you wish that you could snatch all your memories that person could potentially have of you because you felt like they simply didn't deserve it? Well, the reason why self-love would be an answer for something like that is because in your next relationship, you're going to think twice before you allow just anybody to walk in. Think about it. There are going to be people in this world that you're going to meet that you have not yet met. And you're going to have to learn how to ration yourself and also how to protect yourself. Self-love is going to show you what is worth protecting. I remember in a previous relationship I had, I thought to myself when I left that relationship, this is a person that I have no idea how we crossed paths. As the relationship progressed, I could truly tell just how much this person did not know themselves. They also lied to themselves. They also didn't tell the truth to themselves. They lied to other people. And eventually I knew that there would come a time that he would simply be lying to me if he had not done so already. This is when I first learned about self-toleration and what it could look like within a relationship. And I snapped out of it and I told myself, if you were to leave this relationship Will you feel like somebody snatched something from you? Will you feel like somebody stole a piece of you that you're going to have to rebuild? Or are you going to feel like, we ended this relationship, I learned a lot about myself and other people, I can move forward? I constantly reassessed myself in that relationship because there had been so many times where I had ended up with someone, and because they looked great on paper, because they were good looking, because they had the money, because they had this, whatever, because they had all these great things, I realized they lacked a lot of depth, they lacked a lot of reflection, and they lacked a lot in terms of self-work that I constantly kept running into. So when I got to this last relationship, I told myself, Tanisha, you need to make sure that when you leave, you do not let him take a piece of you. Most of your relationships are going to end because how else are you going to find your person? But when this relationship ends, because you're starting to see what type of person you're dealing with, you need to protect yourself and make sure he doesn't take something that you feel like you're going to have to rebuild and spend so many years and time and etc. trying to get back. That was my first conversation I had for myself, and I said, wow, I have to advocate for myself as if I am a parent. I have to advocate for myself as if I would advocate for a friend. That was the first experience I had, and that was literally a year and a half ago, maybe, no, 2 years ago. It has been some time. I remember that was the first time I said I have agency over how much of myself I give as well. So I rationed that out to that person, and I kept trying to tell myself the same rule that I have for my friends. I don't give people anything I need back. Do not give this man a chunk of you that you're going to need later. So I didn't keep a wall, but I kept very firm boundaries. You will not shut me up and be rude and misogynistic towards me. Because at the time when I first met him, I got no signs. He ended up being a red pill type of guy. But anyway, I had no signs. I had no idea. He literally formulated an entire profile of himself personally in my head. And that's what I mean by he didn't even know himself, because there's no way that you can know yourself and operate in the capacity that he was operating. He created an entire avatar and persona that was not really him. And I was very much so a very strong womanist, pro-woman, pro etc. type of woman. And I think he sensed that. So he hid all of his red pill ideologies, and that's when I first started realizing, like, oh, like, this is deep, like, people really listen to this stuff. And he was the first and only man I had ever actually been with that was like that. So it snuck up on me, but he hid himself. I remember as time went on, I could tell like he didn't really know himself, and we're constantly going, you're not going to berate me, we're going back and forth, and it started to get a little toxic. And so I started pulling myself back. So all I'm saying is, I remember, because I had formed this bond with myself that it's me and me against the world, not against him. I didn't see him as an enemy. I saw him as fighting himself, really. I never took what he did personally. I said, this is me. I had a real goddess seminar with myself, and I'm gonna always be grateful for myself. But that was when I transitioned from simply tolerating myself to self-love. So self-love is going to bring you a great deal of advocacy that is going to help you fight your way out of situations that you're going to inevitably find yourself in as a human. This is a sidebar. This is also why self-love is important and where self-love comes in. People are forgetting that we are human. We are taking everything that we are experiencing so heavily. We are just, oh my goodness, the world is ending, love doesn't exist, all these things. And it's like, you're forgetting that people before you, now they might not have had access to as much information as you do, but that's up to you to mitigate. You can put the damn phones down. And you can turn off CNN. You can literally create whatever sphere, social media sphere that you wish to have. You really can do that. People are forgetting that as a human, you're going to have very human experiences. That's going to be loves. That's going to be love's loss. That's going to be heartbreak. That's going to be betrayal. That's going to be deceit. That's going to be trusting. That's going to be learning. That's going to be growing, right? And the self-love aspect is going to be an integral part of your entire human journey, because it's going to help you remain grounded, and it's going to give you a compass that is going to be there for you whenever you feel lost. And you're not going to bond with yourself until you can see yourself out of very difficult situations. And I'm talking as a person who has, okay, I might be sharing too much, but fortunately my brother did unalive himself. And because I had established that self-love journey with myself, I realized that there was nothing that I couldn't get through, even though I was getting through this very difficult situation and it seemed like there was no end to it, that I literally had to lean on myself. I had to lean on myself when my brother passed away, and then inevitably my uncle the next day, not even 12 hours later, after he found out he passed away. I had to lean on myself for that. I had to lean on myself. I had to lean on myself when it came to darkness. And of course, I prayed. I prayed for my sanity. You know, life is bad when you don't pray for a new car. You don't pray for this. You don't pray for that. You don't pray for a new house, but you pray for your sanity. Self-love taught me to advocate for myself and to pray for myself for things that I felt like I might lose. During that journey of transition, I became a totally different person, and I came out completely self-reliant. Not independent, because I believe in interdependency, but I was very self-reliant when it came to my personal needs and wants. In a way that I would not have ever been had I not gone through so many things back to back to back. And I literally became very self-reliant because I had to fight for myself. I had to fight for my sanity. I had to fight for my well-being. I had to fight for my mental health. Self-love builds self-reliance, and self-reliance builds self-love. So as we are journeying through this thing called life, me and my friend talked about this thing called a kitchen cabinet. When it comes to your journey of life, you're going to need something like a kitchen cabinet. You're going to need, this is what my morals are. This is what my boundaries are. Or in this cabinet where you got your boundaries, you got sections in there. Here's what my boundaries look like when it comes to people overall. Here's what my boundaries look like specifically in terms of relationships, familial, romantic, platonic. This is what my boundaries are, right? And as you go, you get to augment that. But as we are journeying through this thing called life, you need a kitchen cabinet, and self-love, self-prioritization, self-reliance needs to be on the top shelf of that kitchen cabinet. So if you don't build it now, build it later, but it is an absolute requirement that you build it. I love advocating for things like self-love, for things like self-prioritization, for things like self-centeredness, but not in a way that you put yourself ahead of people in a way that detriments them or detriments your relationship with them, but in a way that you put on your life jacket first so that you can help people better. That was how I had to frame it. As a person who is a former people pleaser, and as a person who literally thrives off of being around people, I am a ENTJ. I have been a ball of energy, an extroverted person my entire life, since the day I was born. My dad said that I have been clapping when people walked in the room. When I saw people, I was always chatty, ready to talk to anybody about anything. In being a people person, I had to brainwash myself into centering myself. And I know now that it wasn't just a brainwash, it was something that actually was helpful. When I centered myself, I had more capacity to love, more capacity to understand, more capacity, more empathy. In my self-centeredness, in my self-love, in my self-reliance, in my self-trust, I learned and I met myself very deeply. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing when you have to love yourself, when you have to rely on yourself. It's an even more beautiful thing when you don't look like all the things that you've been through that cause that intense self-reliance. So if anybody were to ask me, how do I start loving myself in a way that is going to bring me closer to myself, I would say start with dating yourself. Start with getting to know yourself. I swear to you, because I was so external, locus of control oriented, so externally validated, I did not even know what I liked. I still struggle to this day to know what I like. And then on top of it, I grew up in a military style, very strict, very you do as I say, very no, you're gonna do what I tell you to do type of life, that type of household. I grew up in that household. So understanding what I liked and what I didn't like was a non-option for me. I had to go with what everybody else needed me to go with, right? As time went on, I did establish myself and I still started putting my foot down, and eventually I had to actually leave home at 15. That's another self-reliance thing. I had to leave home at 15, and I did not start thinking about what I actually liked outside of what everybody else liked, because I always just go with the flow. Oh yeah, we're gonna go, I'll go, yeah. I think I can find it. Maybe this is my journal. This is my current journal. I started it in 2022. And I don't write in it every day, but like you'll see where I'm writing just recently, as of 4 years ago, like what do I like? Like, what kind of hairstyles do I like? What kind of foods do I like? Learn yourself. Learn yourself. Write down things. Like, think about it. Like, I don't know if anybody has had the experience that I had, but if what I know about the world serves me right, there is going to be very few people in this world that I feel like I cannot relate to. There is going to be someone that watches this video that's going to say, I don't even know what color I like. And that happened to me as well, right? I didn't even know what color I liked. I was such a go with the flow, yes person, whatever you say. That's how bad it was. Meet yourself first. I would start at the very basics, a self-meditation. Just like sitting there, think about all the things you like, you don't like, things like that. Date yourself. Take yourself out with no phone, no internet, no scrolling, no background noise. Take yourself out for a walk. I do walks all day, every day. I take myself to the movies. I take myself out, and then I realize I don't like this thing without somebody telling me what they do and don't like. I don't even like drinking alcohol. But for some reason, I did it for like 15 years, since I was like a preteen, a teenager, right? What? So just start with the basics and get to know yourself. And you're gonna find out you're a really good person. Like, I have goddess seminars with myself. Like, you know what? I actually really like you, Tanisha. Like, not only do I really like you, if you were to clone yourself, I think about myself, I clone myself in my head all the time. And I say to myself, would you be a good friend? I absolutely would think that a clone Tanisha, like, I mean a Gucci Mane clone of Tanisha would be the best fucking person I ever met in my life. I would feel so seen, so validated. I would feel like I don't ever want to be away from this person. Why? Because I have met myself that deeply. Right? There's not going to be anything that sneaks up. Nothing's going to sneak up from my childhood or my past, because I do things like shadow work. Nothing's going to sneak up from me. There's nothing. Start with getting to know yourself. Not only getting to know yourself, but follow what sets your soul on fire. And you're going to be like, oh, well, what if I don't really know the answer to that? You're going to know. Because it's that itching, that gnawing in the back of your mind. It was the first thing you thought about when I said, follow the things that set your soul on fire. And let's say you started and you don't like it. Not that it was hard or whatever, and you start. You have a right to change your mind, right? You have a right to decide actually who you are as well. Like, people be like, oh, I want to find myself. Mind you, I never said find yourself. There is no self to find. I said meet yourself. And then you're going to decide based off of that what you like and what you don't like about yourself. That's all I have for you today. Be kind to yourself and others. Until next time.